Good morning. Welcome to today's ceremony to unveil the 2023 National POW MIA Recognition Day poster. Please stand and direct your attention to the arrival of the official party. Today's official party includes the Secretary of the Army, the Honorable Christine Wormuth, and the Director of the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency, Mr. Kelly McKeag. Please be seated. We are grateful to have a former POW, family members, veteran service organizations, and those tuning in via live stream joining us today. National POW MIA Recognition Day was established in 1979 through a proclamation signed by President Jimmy Carter. Since then, each subsequent president has issued an annual proclamation commemorating the third Friday in September as National POW MIA Recognition Day. Since 1999, the Department of Defense has created a poster commemorating this special day, and the 2023 edition of the poster continues this tradition. We are grateful you are all here or tuning in to commemorate this special moment with us. Today, we have gathered to honor and acknowledge those who have sacrificed so much for our nation and survived harsh captivity to return with honor. We are especially honored to have former POW, retired Air Force Colonel, Mr. Michael Brazelton. Let's give him a round of applause, everyone. We have also gathered, unified in our belief that every unaccounted for U.S. service member and civilian from our past conflicts should never be forgotten. These men and women paid a heavy price for the cause of freedom and deserve the fullest possible accounting and to be brought home to their loved ones. We are honored to have with us today distinguished guests from veteran service organizations, family groups, and family members of the unaccounted and accounted for from past conflicts. Let's give them a round of applause as well. It is now my pleasure to introduce the Director of the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency, Mr. Kelly McKeag.
Distinguished guests, department leaders, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and thank you for joining us here at this important ceremony. Secretary Wormuth, thank you very much for officiating this ceremony. Since before our nation's founding, and whenever our enemies jeopardize our liberties and our freedoms, Americans have answered the call to duty, here and abroad. Tens of thousands were taken as prisoners of war, where they faced inconceivable hardships and suffering. But they persevered with inordinate courage, faith, and resilience to return home with honor. There are also tens of thousands who are tragically still unaccounted for. They made the supreme sacrifice for our nation, and their families still grieve over their loss, which is exacerbated by inherent uncertainties. America's steadfast commitment to its POWs and MIAs has spanned decades. It is manifested no more tangibly and profoundly than by the extraordinary lengths the Department of Defense takes to find, recover, identify, and repatriate the remains of its unaccounted for heroes. The work is complex, arduous, and often involves great risk. It is also a humanitarian effort that benefits from the strong cooperation of 45 partner nations where Americans lay fallen. This very day, teams are operating in Austria, Belgium, the Federated States of Micronesia, France, Italy, Palau, the United Kingdom, Vanuatu, and Vietnam. Another tangible manifestation of our nation's commitment to its POWs and MIAs occurs every third Friday in September with the designation and presidential proclamation of National POW MIA Recognition Day. The poster to be unveiled today is designed to promote this special day and further raise the nation's consciousness of its sacred obligation. It was beautifully designed by two DPA NCOs, Army Sergeant First Class Corey Eidelberg and Navy Petty Officer Second Class Annalise Candelaria. Another reminder of our moral responsibility is the iconic POW MIA flag that you see solemnly hanging in this corridor. It compels us to action with its poignant silhouette and the powerful words, "You are not forgotten." Someone who has not forgotten is the Honorable Christine Wormuth, who a little over 2 years ago became our nation's 25th Secretary of the Army. Having entered government service in 1995, Secretary Wormuth is a seasoned and respected national security professional, having served in multiple posts here at the Pentagon, as well as on the National Security Council. She has also held senior leader positions at the Center for Strategic and International Studies and the RAND Corporation. But her direct contribution and connection to this noble POW MIA mission was when she provided timely leadership and oversight as the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy from 2014 to 2016. Ladies and gentlemen, it's our honor to introduce to you Secretary of the Army, Christine Wormuth. Madam Secretary.
Thank you so much, Director McKeague, for the very nice introduction. And good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you all. I'm really honored to be here today as we renew our commitment to one of DoD's most sacred commitments. And I'm humbled that we're doing it in the presence of Colonel Brazelton, who spent more than 6 years in captivity in Vietnam. Colonel Brazelton, I believe, is joined here today by his wife, Gloria, and his daughter, Lieutenant Colonel Adriana Brazelton, who I'm proud to say is on Team Army. We're joined today also by several relatives of our missing in action. Colleen Shine, whose father was recovered in 1996, Major Christina Roberts, whose great-uncle was identified 2 years ago, and Pam Kane and Jeannie Huffman, who are working so hard to see that their loved ones are accounted for. Right up front, I want to thank Director McKeague and the men and women of DPAA. Whether you work here in the Pentagon or in one of the forensic laboratories, whether you analyze data in an office or whether you conduct investigations in some remote part of the world, and Kelly mentioned a number of locations where DPA is operating today, everything you're doing is helping to ensure that we honor and remember the sacrifices of DoD personnel who are not yet accounted for. I also want to welcome our guests from veterans and family organizations who've done so much to advance this mission. Anyone who walks through this exhibit in the hallway will learn that our POW and MIA families have been steadfast in holding the country and the Department of Defense to its commitments. And as Director McKeague mentioned, I can speak about this from personal experience because I was serving when then Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel was Secretary, and there were a series of troubling incidents that took place at that time that made clear that the department's POW MIA mission was not as effective or efficient as it needed to be. And as a Vietnam veteran himself, Secretary Hagel knew that this was unacceptable. So he directed my then colleague, Michael Lumpkin, to thoroughly review the department's personnel accounting efforts for past conflicts and to propose changes to improve them. The primary result of this effort was the creation of the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency in 2015, which brought together under one organizational roof almost all of the department's work to find and identify the missing from past conflicts. I was then Undersecretary of Defense for Policy at the time, and I oversaw the standing up of DPAA, which continues to report to the USDP. That experience gave me a special appreciation for the critical importance of DPA's work, the complexity of its organizations, and the need for consistent and persistent engagement with all of the stakeholders. While the establishment of DPAA was not without its challenges, I was very proud to be present at its creation. And when I returned to the Pentagon 2 years ago, after 5 years of being away, I was truly pleased to see all of the progress that DPAA has made across the accounting mission. it's really been remarkable. I've enjoyed seeing all the successes of the agency over the past several years. And just as an example, by 2018, DPAA had for the first time successfully accounted for more than 200 individuals. And those efforts were really accelerating at the time that the pandemic hit. And while COVID, of course, caused a significant disruption to DPAA's mission, I know that the team has now regained momentum. And that's really important because each of the more than 81,000 unaccounted for personnel from designated conflicts represent a family that has not received the answers that they need or the closure that they deserve. And we know that this matters because every month there are families who do receive the news that they have often been waiting decades to hear. This fiscal year alone, DPAA has accounted for 81 individuals, including 3 from Vietnam, 26 from the Korean War, and 52 from World War II. And each of the stories behind those individuals is remarkable. One of the accounted for service members from World War II was a soldier named Leroy Slenker from El Segundo, California. Private Slenker served in the Philippines and was among the thousands of personnel who were reported captured when U.S. forces in Bataan surrendered to the Japanese. He was subjected to the unimaginable horror of the Bataan Death March and was held at a notorious POW camp where he reportedly died. But his remains were never identified until DPAA analysis of a disinterred grave in the Philippines returned a match. Now, Private Slenker will be given his final rest and full military honors, and we in the Army will be forever proud that the department brought home one of its missing soldiers. This spring, there was another extraordinary discovery made possible by DPAA, which identified the remains of Army Corporal Luther Story, a Korean Medal of Honor recipient. Corporal Story's company came under a fierce daylight attack near a village in Korea on September 1st, 1950. His award citation states that he seized a machine gun from a wounded gunner and fired on the hostile forces, killing over 100 enemy soldiers. As the company withdrew, Corporal Story was wounded, but he disregarded his injuries and rallied his men around him to repel the attack. He chose to remain in the same position to help cover the company's withdrawal. He was last seen, according to the citation, firing every weapon available and fighting off another hostile assault. 9 months after he was presumed to have been killed, General Omar Bradley presented Corporal Story's father with his son's Medal of Honor at a ceremony right here in the Pentagon. And more than 70 years after that, on April 26th of this year, President Biden announced alongside the President of the Republic of Korea that Corporal Story would be coming home to Georgia for his family to lay to rest this year on Memorial Day. These are just 2 examples of what DPAA has accomplished through hard and painstaking work. And this makes a difference not just to the families of the missing and the fallen, but to all of our families and soldiers who are serving today. As the exhibit in this hallway, there is a panel devoted to the POW MIA flag, which has for many decades embodied our nation's commitment to this mission. The panel says to ask a young troop why he or she is carrying the carefully folded flag on a mission in a far-off country. Some of the troops have said, and I quote from the panel, "It's just a reminder for us that the folks back home have not forgotten us." The team from DPAA and the representatives of our veterans and family organizations here with us today know that we have a lot more work to do. Secretary Austin has called the accounting mission both a monumental task and a sacred obligation. That's why he pledged last year that we will never stop working to find answers and to bring home our missing. It's also why it's so important that we come together to raise awareness by holding events such as today's poster unveiling and by learning the stories of those who were imprisoned or declared missing. And we're truly fortunate to have with us today one of those heroes. Thank you again, Colonel Brazelton, for being here with us, with your family, for participating in this unveiling, and for giving us such a powerful reminder of the sacrifices that our prisoners of war and missing in action have made. We're also grateful to the family members of the missing in action for your faith, hope, and resilience in seeking the return of your loved ones. We pledge never to forget their ultimate sacrifice and your right to answers. And to all of the veteran and family group representatives who have worked so hard on this mission over the years, thank you once again for the depth of your commitment to this cause and for always standing with the men and women who serve our country so bravely.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. At this time, Colonel Brazelton, Ms. Jeannie Huffman, Ms. Pam Kane, and Major Christina Roberts will join Secretary Wormuth and Mr. McKeag to unveil this year's POW MIA Recognition Day poster. Okay, I'll give you kind of 1, 2, 3, go. Thank you to our presenters and participants. This year's theme of the poster focuses on not forgetting the ultimate sacrifice of more than 81,000 Americans who remain unaccounted for. The iconic POW MIA silhouette on the stadium chair reminds us not only the heroes, but their family sacrifices. A lifetime of missed birthdays, ball games, graduations, weddings, and the void left. The rose symbolizes the honor and respect owed by all citizens to those Americans who paid the last full measure of devotion. Finally, behind the chair stands the service flags, the POW MIA flag, and the United States flag, to show that our armed forces today stand behind these heroes and our commitment to investigate, recover, identify, and return them to their families. This year's observance is Friday, September 15. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's ceremony. Thank you again for attending or tuning in via the web, and for your continued support of our mission to provide the fullest possible accounting of our missing and unaccounted for. Thank you.